Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have 3 more systems saved from e-waste. That's right, 3 systems that have not gone to that magical junk pile where these systems disappear. We have an IBM Aptiva 2020-70 here on the bench, sporting an Intel Celeron processor sticker. But again, you never know what you're going to find in these systems. We have a Pitney Bowes something. No idea what this is. First time I've ever seen Pitney Bowes on any sort of computer before, so that should be interesting to dig into. And then we also have an AST computer here, Advantage Pro 486 SX25. I don't know what the current state of repair of these systems are, but we have lots to do, so let's get right to it. Okay, so the very first system, we'll go in order, 1, 2, and 3. We've been through a few of these on the channel, so you know the process we follow. So the first system we have is an IBM Aptiva 2270 system. On the front it says Intel inside, Celeron processor, showing designed for Windows 2000 Professional or Windows 98. So it gives you an idea of the era when this system was around. And also when it comes to IBM, I love all IBM. Everyone knows that on this channel. Anything IBM, I definitely try to get, and this was no different than that historical process. So we have what looks like an original CD RW drive that's down here, compact disc read-writable, and a blank space for additional optical media. We have the typical front bezel design, but probably just a standard 3.5-inch floppy in behind. Our power switch, and based on what I see here, it's probably an ATX power supply with our power and our hard drive light indicators. Again, nothing too fancy. This is a pretty basic looking machine, but even basic looking, just a really nice looking machine. And there's a lot to be said about that IBM logo for sure. And the overall condition of this system is pretty darn good. I mean, outside of yellowing that's on the system, it is in really good shape. I mean, retro brighting for sure would be really awesome on the system. Give it some UV light and get it back to the original. And normally I don't see the side panels fade like this, but this is like, it feels like a plastic alloy of some sort. So yeah, not surprised that that is based on the material composition. Not surprised that is yellowing. Now, on the back of the system, we have our ATX power supply. Goodness knows, probably proprietary to IBM, but again, we'll take a look in there. I made that mistake on a previous video where even though it lines up to the bolt pattern, the screw pattern of the case, the voltages may be proprietary to the system. So basically, always make sure we check those before swapping a power supply out. I mean, that's just good nature to do anyway. So on the back, we have IBM registered trademark and just some information. We have 2 PS2, 2 USB. I imagine their version 1 would be my guess, but we'll see. We have a parallel here, serial here, and VGA on board. So I can't imagine, again, not knowing what the system is, but I can't imagine being a particularly high-spec machine. This was probably something that was used in homes, entry-level machines, or in businesses, entry-level as well, especially where it has the Windows 2000 sticker on the front, but it does have a Windows 98 second edition key here as well. So again, interesting to see. Now here, we also have the audio and game ports here. So your basic audio, input, output, and what have you. And then I also have the game port. And then on the opposite side, we have, other than scuffing, there's definitely some deep scuffing in this, probably being slid on its side of some sort. But again, nothing that we can't resolve there. So I'm going to get my screwdriver and we're going to take off this case. Now, unlike the M50, which we just did a review on, it's not toolless by design here. So there's a lot to be said about toolless, depending on your use case, of course, whether or not that's what you want or not. So let's get this all situated here. Okay, I've changed it around just to give us a better angle, better view into the system. So open that up. And yeah, again, just definitely a plastic kind of outside, but inside. And again, IBM has that layout of the motherboard on a sticker. Now, in the M50 video I didn't notice that till the end when I was trying to guess one of the ports. And, you know, this particular system has that on there. So it's definitely going to be a good reference material for when you want to work on the system. So again, we already called out the outside ports there, but it'd be cool to have in case you ever need it in the future. The inside of the system is absolutely filthy. All right. There's just so much. Look, I mean, I can scrape it off the bottom with the the cover there. And speaking of which, there are two that are just floating around in that system, and it looks like the power supply is absolutely caked with dirt for sure. I do want to test this to see if this is going to work at all, to see if it even posts, but it looks complete outside of the dirt. So we have our CPU here, and socket 370 is what it's showing there. And we have 2 sticks of memory. Let's just see what they are. And everybody knows on this channel that when I take memory out, it never works. Again, till I use other methods. So we have PC 133 memory, not exactly showing what that memory is, just on the sticker. We'll have to see as we go in. And then this other stick is, again, 256 megabytes. So I would guess 512 that's in the system, but assuming that it's, you know, paired up, but they're both SD memory sticks. We'll pop that back in there. Yeah, so the board itself has one AMR slot that we see there. And we also have one AMR slots here. And we also have our 3 PCI. And that bottom one, I am not sure just offhand. It says TV/DFP port. So I'm not exactly sure what that is. It's an expansion port, obviously, of some sort, proprietary to IBM on this system. So we have our, what looks like our coin cell battery, and I don't know if this was, you know, if it's broken or what it is, but definitely the piece of metal, the positive that usually sits on top there is kind of coming off there. So I don't know what's going on there. And I'm looking else what we have here. We have for a hard disk drive. Let's see if we can take that out and see what is that drive. We'll remove that drive caddy here and just see, I mean, years and years of dirt in this system. Just look at that. I mean, just caked on. Jeez. And even that, oh my goodness, look at that. Even the front, like, oh, just look at that. Just one of those systems that they said, no, I'm done with this. And so this hard drive itself is a Fujitsu, and it is showing a 10.1 gigabyte hard drive. So 10 gigabyte hard drive in this system. So that's really cool to have in the system. And I mean, obviously we could do bigger. We could have different, different types there and things like that. But yeah, we'll just go with what's original. Everyone knows I like to keep as original as possible on here, and I'm going to do just that. Now, in the interest of saving myself future work, I'm just going to put one screw in just for the sake of testing the system, just because I do want to do a restoration on the system. Okay, in terms of our CD-ROM drive, optical drive, it's a CDRW, as I had mentioned, supporting an IDE interface for sure, and I just don't know exactly what that is yet, but we'll determine that as we get the system fired up. It'll tell us what we need to know. For a processor, I'm going to take a quick look at that just to say what we have for a CPU in this system. Okay, so for the CPU, it should be just as simple as doing this. And I say as simple, but nothing is ever truly simple. Yeah, look at that. Lots of dried up, if any, grease on this. And I really don't love when the thermal paste goes like outside of its required area. I mean, just onto the processor there. But again, for what we're doing, we can get that cleaned up and move on from there. And we have a Intel Celeron 533 megahertz processor. So we got this kind of cleaned up. There was a lot of green stuff on there too. I don't know what that was from. But the isopropyl alcohol kind of bath I'm giving it here is allowing me to get this kind of all removed here. So that's pretty good. There we are. We have that all removed and good to go. So we have the processor back in, no problem. And I'll do the same thing with this. I'll just get some of that grease off. I mean, it is not terrible. I mean, it does have some stickiness to it though. And I like to just get that kind of all removed. Okay, there's our MX4 thermal compound. I'm just going to put a little bit on here. And we don't have to put a whole bunch on this. Just enough to get it where it goes, and then because we're going to be doing some additional cleaning on this again, and that should be enough to what we need to do. Okay, so we have that on. Let me just put the cooler back on. Sometimes it's easier when you use the screwdriver there. Just good to get it in there. There we go. See, nice and easy. Clips right in there, nice and tight. Love it. It's on. The thermal grease is on there, no problem. Okay, so we went over the memory. Now, one thing I want to do now is just kind of check over the board. I'm seeing quite a bit of dirt. So we have, a lot of dirt around the CPU. Obviously that would, it's conducive to that anyway, because, you can see the inside of the system is so dirty. But, it would just be sucking in that dirt and, everywhere which way, which is not good for any of the components as it creates a thermal barrier. Now, looking at the capacitors, I'm not sure if this was in the capacitor plague era. I know the M50 that we had on the bench before, in another video, it had 2 bad caps on it. I'm going to be replacing all 5 in a future video. But I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing any caps that are kind of bulging, or leaking or anything like that. So that's good news for sure. Let's get the bench all set up, get our monitor, keyboard, and see if we can get this fired up. Okay, here we are all set up on the bench, and I, of course, had to get my IBM PS2 keyboard. Couldn't do it without that. Now, I don't have an IBM branded mouse, but we do have the Microsoft IntelliMouse here, which is fine. This probably came with a 17-inch CRT of some sort, or even a 15-inch. I had this available, easier to see on camera for sure. So let's fire up the system and see if we have any luck. I have power. IBM, what are you doing, computer? Numlock key is responsive. It's probably going to boot right into Windows. Yep, we have Windows 98 on here. I was actually very, very impressed with the fact that the system fired right up without me having to reseat the memory again. So that's pretty good. Nanny and Papa. That's who owned this computer. That's awesome. Now, that said, I'm not going to go too far with this just because of any PII on here. This is the first time we're seeing this together, and yeah, I don't want to have to worry about any of that. So it's just asking me for, it kept the time, no problem. So that battery's working. Remember I had said that the tab looked like it was busted off, but it seems to be working no problem, so that's pretty darn good. So we have a Windows 98 system functioning so far, and it's not going too slowly, believe it or not. I mean, it didn't take too long to fire that up. I mean, it's still loading up the system devices as well as the system software, but definitely not too bad. Let's see what else happens here. It's probably loading up the active desktop. Yeah, sure enough, it was. And apparently Windows Media Player had some music predetermined, so we'll close that off. Restore my active desktop. Go ahead. Yeah, get this all cleaned up. There we go. Whatever this is. Okay, so we have active desktop actively working on the system. See what I did there? Okay, let's go into, I want to go to my computer for a second and just see what we have for the system. So IBM Corporation Aptiva 2270, genuine Intel Celeron processor running 319 megs of RAM. So we have a 256 and probably 128 that's sitting in there with some shared video memory. And we do have Windows 98 second edition. The nice thing about this as well is that it looks like to be the OEM software that was installed with this because of the branding and, the manufacturer information that's been added into here, along with the support information that would have been added in. So that's definitely cool to see on the system. And under Device Manager, everything looks to be installed as well, which is really nice. So again, e-waste out of the box, fully functioning so far. So a CD-ROM drive, we have a TIAC CD-W54E. That drive is a 4-speed writer, 4-speed rewriter, and 32-speed reader. So that would have came what looks like, based on the coloring and based on the format, original to the system. Keep me honest in the comments, but it looks like that is what was there. And then we have generic drives. I mean, that's our IDE disk. That's our hard drive. We know it's a 10.1 gig because we looked at it. And display adapters. We have Intel 810 chipset graphics drivers. So that's the onboard graphics that's also sharing part of the system memory. We have our controllers, keyboard, mouse, network. We have a Microsoft TV video connection. So I'm wondering if that is the port that I saw on the drive, because of that. On the actual system, it says TV-DFP connector on that that case, that diagram that we saw earlier. So again, I don't know if that's what that's picking up. And then we have network telesystems, PPOE adapter. So sound and game controller. So just that SoundMax integrated digital audio. Seems like a lot of manufacturers were using that particular brand, because we see that in a lot of the Dells on this channel as well. So that's definitely neat. And of course we have USB, and that's all we need for that. So cool, awesome. And if you notice, I'm just clicking around, no problem, and everything seems to be pretty fast. So that's really cool. We have a fully working IBM Aptiva 2270 that needs some TLC. And this is definitely be high on my list to get all cleaned up, because it's just a really good looking system. It doesn't need a lot of work to get all cleaned up. I should really do a retro writing video one of these days. And this system would be an excellent candidate, just because these systems are extremely easy to take apart. And when you do take them apart, it's really cool to be able to watch that process happen. Let's move on to the next system. And here we are with system number 2. And this system really intrigues me, because I, as I mentioned earlier, have not seen Pitney Bowes on a desktop computer or a computer of any kind, to be honest with you. I mean, Pitney Bowes to me are mailing and photocopier. I think recently they've gotten out of the digital imaging type business. I think that they just focus on the mailing equipment side of the business. But again, let's just go over the system. I mean, I can talk about it forever, but let's just go over it. We have metal up here, which is conducive, again, not fading with the courtesy of the wonderful sun, but we have this beautiful brownish, beige, yellowish, whatever color you want to throw at the rainbow on this system. And I love a challenge like this, because, you know, all this can come off and it can look really, really sharp. And I'm really excited to do so. And so on the front, we have what looks like an LED display of some sort. I'm hoping that's what that is. I don't know what it would be otherwise. We have our power switch, and just by the physical actuation of the switch itself, I'm guessing it's AT as we go through this. We also have a key lock that's on the system. And then we have our 3.5-inch floppy disk drive that looks like it's been replaced. Obviously, it didn't yellow with the rest of the system. And then we have what looks like a tape drive by Irwin. Definitely nice to have as well. So let's continue looking at the system. The system physically, I mean, being metal, other than a few scratches on the actual side of the case, looks pretty darn good. Let's flip it around the back here where all the magic is. Here we are. I mean, we have our AT power supply. I'm saying it's AT now, even more so. Lots and lots of dirt in here. We have our DIN 5 connector for our older style AT keyboard. And this model is 2000. That's the model. How interesting. It's a Pitney Bowes 2000 desktop. I have no idea what it is again. So then we have our power, and I love having power supplies that have this extra connection for the monitor. I mean, back in the day, you would connect, you wouldn't plug your monitor into like your power strip. You plug it into the back of your system. And sometimes, depending on the monitor, it would power up with the power of the desktop itself. So, I mean, again, and nice to have it, because, you know, I'd hate to see something like this just disappear. And then we have our COM2 port, it says here, and, you know, it's been through a little bit of wear, a lot of little bending around the outside housing of the actual port. We have COM1, I mean, they're all labeled there, but there's 2 serial ports. Then we have our printer port LPT1, modem, which is missing from the system. Then we have, looks like, another printer port, so LPT2, and another COM port, another serial port here. I mean, there's obviously Braco cards that are in here, not necessarily built on the motherboard. So does that put it in 386 land? You know, are we talking early 486? We'll see. And then we have our VGA connection. Let's take off this cover and hope that we can look inside. I'm assuming that this is how we're going to take this off, and that screw does not look healthy. Okay, just typical standard case, I think. What's holding it on here? I don't want any damage to there. It's okay, it just comes right off. All right, we'll take that off. We'll put that aside so no one has to stare at that. And just look at that. Look at the dust in this system. I mean, you could make a pillow out of this. Who would want to, right? And we don't want that. Let's put that away. There we are. Okay, let's flip it around and take a look inside. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't... I don't even know what it is. Oh, wait a minute. We have a processor. We have a 486SX. Don't exactly know what more we know of that. Let's take a look here. 486SX25 processor that's in this system. So it's a 486 board. We have a 486SX25 processor that's sitting in there. And it looks like we have the math coprocessor that we could put in here. We have the spot for it. We have a header that's off the board. So I don't know if that's going to cause us any grief, but we'll see as we go here. I want to see what that video card is. Let's take the risk and take it out. But we do have the 16-bit bus on this. Being a 486, it's definitely nice. And I'm surprised I'm not seeing any 8-bit bus. It might be the age of it too. Let's just pull this out. If we can. There we are. So there's our video card. We have a video card. It's not really giving me much information, to be honest. It gives me part number, serial number, made in Canada, no less. And it just says BT on it, and the chipset just says Japan. ATI, oh, it says ATI on it. Then it says 28800-6. So that's a chip that's on it, but outside of that, I know nothing else that it's kind of giving me here. And I don't know what expansion that would grant this system, being a 486 system. So again, not knowing exactly what that is. This system definitely needs some TLC. If we can get this going, I definitely want to see if we can give it some love. The hard drive itself, I'm not sure what is in it for a hard drive. It's a Connor hard drive. So that gives you, it's definitely dating it. It's an NC4K8Y is what I'm seeing here. I don't know if that's the exact model on this or not, but it just seems the bigger of all the numbers. And then, of course, we have our AT power supply here, our main power switch, which gives you mains voltage right to the switch. So you got to be careful with that, of course. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take this out right here until we actually go to do anything with the system. But this says 3.6 volt high energy lithium battery. Is this it looks like a Velcroed. Let's just pull it off here. Looks like a Velcroed CMOS battery of some sort. Huh. It's like, well, obviously that's an aftermarket or something added into this system. At least I think it is. As opposed to, but I mean, it's a good sign. Hopefully it's not it's coin cell and nothing to do with that. Now, I'm being reluctant here. I'm not just ripping the system apart and looking at the system, in complete detail. I'm going to fire it up to see if it even works, because I want to do that in a different video. It's interesting how, the slots, the bus slots here are all separated. Like it's kind of creates that space in between. Let's pop that in there. There we go. Okay, I'll pop that screw back in there so it's nice and tight, not going to move around on us. Okay, and what do we have on the flip side of this world? We have our floppy drive and our tape drive down below, which is just absolutely caked with dirt in this system. Obviously, it just sat for a while and then went, and then even with the power supply here, you can see it's just caked on the back here. Okay, we're not going to be so lucky here. So I don't know if everyone can see down inside here, but that is a dreaded barrel battery that we have installed here, a Varta battery. And my first indication was I see corrosion on the back of the keyboard port. And when I saw that, I'm going, uh-oh. And, that could be a sign that there's other damage to the traces that are on the board. I have a 386 computer that I had to do some soldering to do some, trace work because of that Varta battery. And I think actually we showed it on the video. I think I did a battery bypass on it because that motherboard had the option, the jumper, to go between internal and external. Now, this system here looks like there's definitely some leakage in there. I'm not going to do anything just yet because I do plan on doing a fast follow. Now, sometimes people will cut that off immediately just because it's there, but in order for me to do that and access that properly, and properly is the key when I say that, everybody, so keep that in mind, I have to take out the power supply for sure to access that, and possibly some other things. And I don't want to do any of that until I know the system is what condition the system's in. So we'll do that. Plus we have, looks like 30-pin SIM here. Memory, we have 4 banks that are populated of the potential, I would say 8 by the looks of things, banks of SIM memory, so definitely some expansion possibilities. And we also have some cache memory expansion on the board that I'm seeing here as well, not populated. There are some populated, but not all. And there's our, it looks like our keyboard. I think that's our keyboard controller. Enough of that. We're definitely going to do this. And there's a couple 8-bit slots on here. Ironically enough, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like they're more so like under here, the 2 slots. So I don't know what you would do with them with this. But anyway, we'll continue on and see if we can get this system fired up. Okay, we're back, all set up. What a workout. Because this is a AT style case, I had to get a different keyboard. This is my one of my AT keyboards, the good old Acer keyboard, all steel on the back and everything, so nice and hefty, really nice. I got this new old stock, so it works quite well. And then I have my Mitsumi, which was very popular back in the 90s, serial mouse. So that's what I'm using for here. Now, the moment of truth. Let's fire this puppy up. The hard drive is struggling. Do we have post? It's counting memory. Oh my goodness. Let's pause that. Let's see if we can catch it. Yeah, I did. Wow. Okay. We have the system working. Out of the dump. It's working. Okay. We have 1 megabyte of video RAM installed. So we have a VGA card with SVGA card, or probably just a VGA card. It says VGA 1024D24. So if that gives us more information, that's great. With 1 megabyte of video RAM installed, we have ROM BIOS, American Megatrends, which would be cool to go into as well. And then we have 4 megabytes of RAM that's installed on here. And this did have the ability to expand by more, I think 4 more 30-pin SIMs. I don't think, any 30-pin SIMs. Okay, I'm going to hit enter here and see where we go. Okay, so it says CMOS battery state low. I would imagine, considering it's leaking on the board. But the fact that the keyboard controller is still working and the port and so far the traces seems to be working fine, that's a good sign. So definitely want to take the system apart and do a restoration video on it and neutralize any of that acid, the battery acid that's going over the motherboard. You do that by using vinegar, and it just reacts with it, and then you clean it off with isopropyl alcohol. So that's the process, but we can follow that in a video. So run setup utility, F1 to resume. Absolutely. Let's see. Here's our 486 ME BIOS. So this is identical. It looks identical to my 386. So this is probably an early 486 board, specifically because it's taking 30-pin SIM. That's my thing. 1990 is the date code on this. And here you can do different things to get in here. But the date obviously is not working on this system. That's pretty obvious. And it is 1980. Now, because of this, it's probably, the hard drive is not installed. Oh my goodness, I want to see what is on here. Let's see if I can get the information off the hard drive so I can manually tell it what it is. Okay, and we're back, and I wanted to walk everyone through this. So I looked up the drive. It's actually a Connor CP30104H drive that's in the system. And it is, gives me all my jumper settings, depending on what's in here. But then the model itself, the size is 120 megabyte hard drive. Let's go on to standard CMOS setup and see if we can get the hard disk at least maybe booting, but we'll see. This is not installed. Let's go to, 47 for user types of cylinders. Is telling me it has 762 cylinders, and it doesn't like the fact I don't have a numlock key on. Okay, 762. Heads are 8, sectors are 39, and is a Tech 120? Well, 116, close enough. Landing zone, do I have to put that in there? Well, it's asking me for it, so I may as well do that too. I don't know if it'll change anything. We'll do 762 as well. It didn't change anything, but it's good to have all that information in there, and WP comp is 0. Okay, all right, we're out of there. Let's hit escape for exit, and we'll write to CMOS and exit. Yes, and will it boot? Let's see. It's doing a bunch of stuff. It's a consignment management system. I mean, it's Pitney Bowes, right? So whatever this was used for, this is the system. And I don't want to go too far with this just because, you know, I don't know what's on here. I don't know if there's customer information or anything like that. I don't want to have to go through all that. So what's in here? It says start remote diagnostics, stop remote diagnostics, restore old addresses, install blank address base, backup addresses, import addresses, and DOS shell. So I imagine DOS shell is, yeah. So we have DOS version 5 on here is what I saw there really quickly. So we have a DOS shell, sorry. Let's hit exit there and see. So the way it works, yeah, you can go back and forth. So you can probably edit that in the auto-exec back files. Oh, this is just so cool to see there. Yeah, I mean, I can edit this and I can tell it not to go back and forth, but we have a fully working system. That's what we wanted to see. Running some form of proprietary software for Pitney Bowes. I mean, if you know, drop down in the comments, please, of what that system is. I mean, if you've seen this before, let me know. I mean, look how quickly I did that. I feel like I'm working back in the early 90s. But yeah, I mean, whatever consignment management system is, please let us know. And, you know, comment down below. It'd be really cool. This system definitely is a candidate to take apart. It'd be nice to get the system restored and at least, you know, give it the life it deserves back. Okay, enough about that. Let's move on to system number 3. Okay, and we have system number 3 that have been rescued from e-waste. We have an AST with an Intel inside sticker. So it's an Intel-based processor, hopefully. We have Advantage Pro is the model. 486SX25. We have a floppy drive with a floppy disk in here. So let me just take a look. And yeah, there's some personal stuff on there, so we'll keep that out. And then we have a CD-ROM drive, a 36-speed max CD-ROM drive. Yeah, I don't know what brand it is. We'll find out. We have a random cable and stuff in here. It looks like it's been used as a storage compartment, but we'll take a look. And on the front here, we have a reset button here. And we have, looks like power. We have a disk activity light, and we have a switch for power on the front. Let's take a look at the case itself. It looks pretty darn good. Again, metal. You can see the difference, right? You know, the IBM was all yellowed. You know, this only is partially. You can see some different variations of it, but again, you can tell the different materials. The plastic on it was absorbing the sunlight and causing that damage, whereas the metal is not doing that. So on the back, we have, oh, just so much good stuff here. Okay. All right. So we have an AST Research Inc. Advantage series made in the USA. We have a AT keyboard connector. So it's an AT style. So AT power supply as well. There we go. We have a similar power supply as I was mentioning earlier that you can either power on another monitor or power off of that power supply. So that's really cool. And it shows what do we have for a power supply. Doesn't say anything on the outside here. Oh, no, 325 watts is what it says. So we have serial 1 and serial 2 here, which is cool. We have parallel, monitor, and mouse all on the bottom here. So they're built onto the board. Now, it looks like this did have, at one point, an expansion card in here, or possibly 2. But I would argue that the 2 runs right into the memory slots here, which is interesting configurations in some of these systems. They have all this capability, and it must have been for like future designs that they would have. So they'd have one case for multiple types of boards. But just interesting to see how this one seems okay, but these 2 here, based on what I'm seeing in there, you couldn't use them. And then we have a sound card that looks like it's installed in there. Okay, so we have all that. Let's turn it around and see if we can take, or sideways I should say, and see if we can take this case off. All right. Okay, nothing's jumped out at me yet, so that's good. Let's look at this system, this 486, at least we think it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we have Intel 486SX processor that's in here. What we have, let's give everybody a slightly different view here. So we have that 486 processor. What do we have for a sound card? I see CT on the back here, which is generally conducive to indicative is the proper word, of a Sound Blaster card. Let's just take a look here and see what we have. Well, we have a card that's stuck in the system. Oh, that's in there tightly. Okay. Model CT4330 is the card. And then we have two 72-pin SIM memory slots along with two more expansion. That's where I was talking that these two here on the outside, you'd never be able to expand there. So I don't know what, again, it must be the design of the case and these boards. And it looks like the processor, actually it's interesting. The processor is like on a different type of riser type thing going on here. So I don't know if that's is that an expansion card of some sort? Oh, I definitely have to take this apart and look at that. Yeah, because it looks like it's sitting on top of another part where a processor would be under here. Let me just take a better look at that. No, that might just be an expansion card, like a daughter card for the processor, and gives it a little bit of height there. At first I thought it was like the board itself, but when I look at the actual solder joint here on the side, it looks like there's just an edge connector that it plugs into. It sits in there, and there's some over here as well. And then the board itself, it looks like you can do different things with it. So I don't know. If you've seen this before in the past, please let me know, because I'll be honest, I have not. And so it's really, really interesting. What else do we have here? So we don't have any sort of anything else populated here. We have 4 ISA slots here for expansion. We have a floppy drive mounted horizontally here. It looks like, well, I'm not seeing a hard drive in here. Let's just take a look around, see what we might have in here. No, I'm not seeing, other than it being a storage room. There's our front panel for this case. I was wondering if, I have spares of these, and I was going to jury rig something up to kind of like get it to fit here, just to kind of complete the look. But hey, it comes with it. We'll take it all day long. There's a different angle now on that card there, but again, it's just a riser card. That's quite interesting to see, to be honest with you. I've never seen that, and I don't know why I'm so fixated on it, just because I haven't seen it, I guess. Okay, we do have a hard drive. It's hiding over here. Okay, we have a 170 megabyte quantum hard drive. It says June 16th of 1993 is the date code that's written on there, at least on the sticker. I would assume, being a 170 megabyte hard drive, it would be similar to that date. And the actual drive itself is Weirns. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but it says, Weirns right on top there. And definitely it says model CDS-36. So that is the model of the optical drive. And of course, it is IDE as well. Mono and color. Well, that's interesting. So behind the case itself, you have this little guy right here that says mono on the left and color on the right. And I don't know if it is a switch of some sort or what it does, but so if you know, please let me know in the comments. I appreciate it. But outside of that, I'm not going to touch that right now because I want to get the system fired up and see if it even works. Okay, let's flip this around again because I want to get that sound card popped back in there just because it wasn't there to begin with, and we want to make sure we keep everything as close to the way I left it before we do any sort of restoration. Inside the power supply looks to be, okay. I'm seeing through the actual vents there, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of dirt inside there, which is also a big bonus as well. Okay, we have that put back in there. And because it's AT, I put up my AT keyboard away. I'm going to get the AT keyboard and the serial mouse. Actually, this does take a PS2 mouse, I think. But hey, let's do serial. Okay, I'm going to take it all out and get this all set up on the bench and see if we can get the system fired up. Okay, so I have my AT keyboard plugged back in, and so is my Mitsumi serial mouse. That's all good to go. I haven't done anything with this yet. However, when I did plug in the power to the power supply, I did hear this high-pitched whine, kind of like squeal, and that went away. So I don't see any smoke. I'm not smelling anything, and I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything else. So let's see what happens. All right, here we go. Something is going on with that floppy drive. That needs some help. All right, I'm just going to pause here for a second just to see. Let me go. So we have, it's posting. So, okay, can't lose sight of that. System number 3 is posting. Awesome. So AST Advantage Pro BIOS, release 1.01, copyright AST Research 1987-1992. So probably 1992. 11.01, the computer has lost its setup information. Oh no! Check the computer's battery and then system setup. So I was going to mention, I didn't say that earlier, is that I didn't see any sort of CMOS battery on here. So I'm going to have to go in and take a look when I take the system apart to see what we can do to replace that battery. Hopefully there's not a barrel battery that's on here, a part of battery, but again, we'll deal with it if it is. So testing memory, it says 8 megs, okay. Now, so two 4 megabyte sticks that are inside here. It does have 2 additional expansions, so you could do additional memory, which gives us a little more capability as well, because I do happen to have that RAM. So to run system setup, press Control-Alt Escape now, or F1 to continue, or Control-Alt Escape to run system setup. It's funny. To run it, do that, or continue, or do that. Do you think it's trying to hint something to me? Okay, Control-Alt Escape. That's different. Well, my keyboard, is it working? Control-Alt Escape. Okay, yeah, okay. So configuration corrupted or battery low. Your battery is running low or the configuration information is corrupted. Setup will use default settings. Press any key to setup. Okay. All right, here's our overview by AST. We have date and time of 1980. Pretty sure it's not that. Advanced options, floppy and boot. Hard drives. Of course, it's not going to detect anything. Well, actually, usually set to auto. Select integrated for the onboard IDE adapter add-in for hard disk. It says auto, so are we going to be lucky there and let it auto detect? Does that have that functionality? Video and memory. So video is color, EGA, VGA mode, and shows different modes for this. So it does go 1024, 768. Memory 8 megs. So that's good. Let's get out of there for a minute. Actually, doesn't let me escape. I have to go in there. It talks about coprocessor or ports. And again, we didn't see one on the board. That's all pretty standard stuff. And BIOS information. That's really cool. So processor is 486SX25. This board probably gives you a little more capability of expansion, meaning, could you put a different type of processor in here, a little faster? So yeah, it'd be cool to see. And then floppy drive, auto integrated, and try floppy first, and then keyboard error, numlock. So boot device. It's interesting how it says, I'll just try the floppy first. We'll do that. I think the floppy drive is dead. It was making some really bad noises and the light staying on. Can I change that? It'll allow me to change. So let's see here. To move cursor, use up and down. That's fine. Left and right to make it. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we're going to try hard drive first in that case. And then for floppy drive, I'm going to put in, I'm going to put none here, just because I don't want it to look for that anymore, just because it is causing a problem. And whatever we do here anyway won't save. So it won't matter after we turn the power off to the system. Okay. Exit system setup. And we're going to save changes. And let's see what happens. Does this do anything? 8 megs of RAM tested. That's awesome. We don't want to run setup. Okay, so it might be one of those systems that require you to go in and replace the battery. I know I had one other computer like that. It was a Pentium, I think it was our Pentium 166 computer, the A-Open Mystery PC. That's the one that placed the battery on it and what have you. So, oh yeah, it was the... yes, it was. It was the Dallas chip. That's what we had to do on that system. And it would not boot without that in there. It just won't work. I'll give it another attempt here. I'm just going to power it off because AT, I can do that. I'm just going to unplug the power to the floppy disk in case that's causing us any grief. Now that the hard drive has stopped spinning, I'll fire it back up. I always like those things to stop moving first before I give it another jolt of power, especially something as old as this. Okay, it's doing another test. I'm told to try the hard drive first. Yeah, telling me to do it again. Let's go here. Control escape. Yeah, so it's giving me the battery error message again, but I just turned it off. So let's see if we can get past that. The date shouldn't matter for right now. Okay, let's go back to exit, save, and does it boot and do anything? Let's see. At least we know the RAM's right and working fine. Yeah, okay. Well, the system posts. It's not, I'd love to see what it does in terms of an OS. I don't know if it's doing this. Normally it should come up and say something like, unable to, find boot drive or something along the lines. That I really feel this has to do with that battery that's on board somewhere. So I'm going to have to take this all apart and see if we can get that battery replaced and get this system booted. All right, let's clean up the bench and take another look at these systems. And we're back, all back on the bench here with our 3 e-waste systems. We have our IBM, our Pitney Bowes, and our AST. What an assortment of e-waste. We have our Intel Celeron CPU running Windows 98 2nd edition, which we were able to get going, no problem. Not too many issues in that system. It wouldn't take too long to get that sorted out. Even the battery's working. But I'd like to take a look at that connector just to see. Then we have this Pitney Bowes system. It was a 486SX computer as well. This system itself, I believe it was a 25 that it was. It must have been some sort of inventory management system of some sort. I don't know. And I did show the installed OS, if you want to call it an OS that's installed in here. So anybody in the comments, please let me know. But such a great computer, good looking computer. I'd love to get this going, get it all cleaned up, and then do something differently with it. But it's just very unique, really cool. And then we have our AST Advantage Pro computer, our 486SX25. Again, this is the faceplate that was inside of it, but I mean, although the coloring looks quite the same, the yellowing, it's not, I don't believe it's for the system, just because it doesn't, unless it's broken inside or something. I'll have to take a look at the latches, but it just doesn't hold up on there too well. But yeah, just really, it's the same color. That's what, same amount of light exposure. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but anyway, definitely I can be all there, whatever. Okay, just gonna stand there. It's fine. Okay, this is so cool. Hope everyone really enjoyed doing this. I know I did. Yeah, just seeing these old systems, bringing them back to life, and then giving them a fighting chance. So we're going to do restorations on these. I really want to get these kind of going again and get them all cleaned up and usable and scrubbed down. And, I don't know the RetroBrite process, what it'll do, if we're going to do that or not, but just really cool if we could. Okay, anyway, I'll stop talking. Okay, the video's gone on long enough just because when I get systems like this, I just get so excited. Just really brings back a lot of nostalgic memories for me. Especially when I see some of these types of systems where they're a little more unique. These two here specifically, it gives me even more intriguing and more excitement to be able to dig into them and find out exactly what we can do to restore them and get them all cleaned up and what we can do to, again, keep them going. Okay. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. Hit the notification button. Change it to all. You'll be notified when I make new content such as today. And leave a comment down below. Do you know what the operating system is? Did you own an IBM Aptiva? This AST system that's not booting because I think it's the battery? Let me know down below. I respond to all my comments that I can, that I see, and I really love the interaction on the channel. That's what this is all about. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.